One night in December 2020, I was about to put my son to bed when dozens of individuals descended upon our home. Growing in numbers over the course of an hour, they stood outside my front door, waking my neighbors, shouting obscenities and graphic threats into bullhorns. As a result, there is an omnipresent feeling of anxiety and dread that permeates our daily lives and those of our families. Not long ago, my son, standing in our driveway, picked up a stick, turned to me and said, "Don't worry, Mom. If the bad guys come again, I'll get them with this." He's 6 years old.
That was Michigan's Secretary of State this morning explaining to the Senate Judiciary Committee that election officials like her are under threat right now across America, and they need help from Congress in order to keep administering elections fairly. People like the Michigan Secretary of State have faced a constant barrage of threats since 2020, and that's where we are right now. A 6-year-old in Michigan arming himself with a stick because he's afraid that people will come back to harass his mom again just for helping us all vote. Meanwhile, primaries in 5 battleground states last night showed election conspiracy theorists continuing to win races. Apparently, this is the state of things. While election deniers are doing pretty well, those who stood up to power and told the truth, particularly in the Republican Party, lost. Joining us now is Jocelyn Benson, Michigan Secretary of State. Madam Secretary, thank you for being here today. Thanks for your testimony. You and I have had many chances to discuss it, but it was very personal today for you. That's not the part we often talk about. But that, you're going to stay in this race, in this business, but there are people who are leaving it. There are people in lower positions, volunteer positions, or paid positions in elections across this country who are saying that kind of pressure, those kinds of threats, people coming to our house, it's too much. I can't be part of this.
Yeah, that's true. There's two things happening right now. Some of us are actually feeling emboldened through this work. And what I saw in Michigan's primary this week were election workers standing firm and proudly in support of the truth and the process and the elections that we know are secure and accurate. But we do also see a significant number of folks leaving the field because they say these threats, these attacks on our character and integrity based on lies and conspiracy theories, it's too much. And our democracy will wither on the vine if we see too many good people of integrity on both sides of the aisle leave the profession as a result of these threats.
So what do you make of what's your top line response to the things that happened yesterday? People like Republicans Rusty Bowers in Arizona losing, people like Tudor Dixon walking away with her nomination in the state of Michigan, Peter Meijer losing as well. What does it tell you about people's perception of election integrity, both in this country and in the state of Michigan?
It says two things. One, we have to remember it's a primary. It's not a general election. And so when the full electorate participates, I do anticipate we'll see a rejection of the lies and conspiracies that have really been furthered just by one political party over the last several years with a political agenda. But it also shows just how deep those lies and conspiracies have seeped into one of our major political parties, to the extent that we're seeing nominees from those parties gain nominations based on lies and their willingness to continue spreading those lies despite mountains of evidence that our elections are secure and that the results are accurate.
Well, the new Michigan Republican nominee for governor disagrees with you there. Tudor Dixon has criticized you recently, in fact, saying, quote, "We have to make sure that our elections are secure, and what happened in 2020 doesn't happen again." Tell me about this, because one of the things you have said to me over and over again is that in Michigan, you do audit your elections, despite the idea that you never do, and that your elections are robust and safe.
Yeah, I think, first, let's be clear. The 2020 election was a very secure election. It was an accurate election, and it was the highest turnout election in our state's history. So if you say you don't want to repeat that again, I have questions about how dedicated you are to democracy itself. But it also speaks to, the moment that we're in, that candidates for serious, significant offices like governor of the state of Michigan would be more, adept spreading lies about an election that has happened already, and the results of which have been both adjudicated and affirmed repeatedly, as opposed to sharing your vision for the future of the state, which I think is what voters really want to hear right now. Not about the past, but the future.
Looking at what happened in Kansas yesterday, I was actually thinking about Michigan. Voters in Michigan might get the chance to cast ballots to change Michigan's constitution in November and codify the right to abortion. It's the opposite situation of Kansas, right? The default position in Kansas was that abortions were protected. The default position post-Roe in Michigan is that they're not protected by your state constitution. They're protected by your attorney general and the district attorneys who will not prosecute them. So tell me about how this goes. The Michigan effort to protect abortion has got the signatures it needs for the ballot initiative to be validated. What do you think happens next?
Well, right now, the signatures are indeed being validated. They did. The petitioners did submit a record-breaking number of signatures for a constitutional amendment, more than had ever been submitted for any constitutional amendment in our state. Those signatures are now going under a professional review and validation, and then a recommendation will be made as to whether to put this question to the voters this November. That will be made shortly. Once that goes forward, if it is on the ballot, then truly our fundamental rights and freedom is on the ballot this November in Michigan, and the future of our democracy, both through this initiative and the elections for governor, attorney general, and secretary of state, and many others. So it will give voters an opportunity to weigh in on their stake of protecting their own fundamental freedoms and rights and our democracy this fall, which it was really not just about Michigan, but the full country. I believe across the country, those are the issues on the ballot this fall. Those are the issues voters can weigh in on across the country. And I think what Kansas showed us is really where voters stand on those issues, which is squarely on the side of protecting those fundamental rights, freedoms, and our democracy.